The rusted sign creaked in the artificial wind of Station Omega 7, its faded letters spelling out Salvador's Sanctuary. Salvador wiped his oil-stained hands on a rag that had seen better decades. Staring at the inheritance that had pulled him out of retirement, his father's bar, a relic from the golden age of human expansion, now belonged to him. Should have stayed fixing ships, Salvador muttered, pushing open the heavy door. The interior smelled of aged whiskey and forgotten stories, exactly as he remembered from childhood visits. His father had always said the bar was special, that it served customers from all corners of the galaxy. Salvador had assumed the old man meant smugglers and traders. He was wrong. The bar's systems hummed to life as Salvador crossed the threshold. Holographic menus flickered on ancient displays, showing drinks in languages he couldn't read. The atmospheric regulators adjusted automatically, and somewhere in the back, the kitchen's auto chef began its startup sequence. His father had maintained this place meticulously. Even in his final years, Salvador found a datapad behind the counter, his father's last message waiting. Son, the first customer always arrives at sunset. Serve them well. Trust your instincts. And remember, humans built this station when we were still learning to dream beyond our solar system. We've always been braver than we know. Cryptic as always, Dad, Salvador said, but he felt a tightness in his chest. As twin suns dipped below the station's viewport horizon, the door chimed. Salvador looked up, expecting a wayward spacer or perhaps one of the station's maintenance crew. Instead, reality seemed to fold. The being that entered defied comprehension at first glance. It stood 12 feet tall, its form shimmering between states of matter, solid scales that reflected starlight, ethereal wings that existed in dimensions. Salvador's eyes couldn't quite process, and eyes that burned with the light of collapsing galaxies. The temperature in the bar dropped, then spiked, then normalized as the entity stabilized itself. I seek Salvador, the being said, its voice resonating in frequencies that made the bottles behind the bar vibrate sympathetically. Salvador's mechanic instincts kicked in before his fear could. Analyze the problem. Find the solution. I'm Salvador. You're the first customer. The being's massive head tilted, surprised. You do not flee. This not. I've rebuilt quantum drives with my bare hands while they were still running, Salvador said, reaching for a glass. A sound like mountains laughing echoed through the bar. I am Carthax Ul, sovereign of the Draconic Imperium, guardian of the 17 burning worlds. Your kind called my species dragons. When they first encountered us, millennia ago, Salvador paused mid-reach. Dragons are real? We are as real as you, mechanic turned bartender. Your father served me for 43 of your years. He was the only being in this sector who never flinched, never bargained for his life, never saw me as anything but a customer. Carthax Ul's form solidified slightly, becoming more comprehensible. He served me something called coffee, with a shot of courage. I have traveled 3 star systems to see if his son carries the same spine of steel. Salvador found the coffee maker, an antique Earth model his father had cherished, and began the brewing process. Why does a dragon king need courage? Even immortals doubt themselves human. As the coffee brewed, Salvador studied the being. Up close, he could see the weariness in those cosmic eyes, the weight of centuries in the way Carthax Ul held himself. It reminded him of the old haulers he used to repair, still powerful, still functional, but carrying the scars of countless journeys. My father was a mechanic too before he opened this bar, Salvador said, pouring the coffee and adding a generous shot of whiskey. He taught me that everything breaks eventually. Ships, stars, people. The trick isn't avoiding damage, it's knowing how to keep moving anyway. He slid the cup across the bar. It expanded automatically to accommodate the Dragon King's claws. Carthax Ul stared at the drink, then at Salvador. I am dying, human. My kind lives for eons, but even we face entropy's embrace. I have come to ask you something your father promised to consider, should it fall to you. Ask. When I die, my imperium will fracture. 17 worlds will descend into civil war. Species that we have protected for generations will be consumed in the fire. The Dragon King's voice carried the weight of impending tragedy. Your father suggested something radical, something only a human would consider. Salvador waited, the coffee growing cold between them. He suggested that humans could serve as interim guardians. Neutral mediators. Until my successor is chosen. Your species has no stake in our politics, yet you have proven capable of standing among the stars without flinching. Carthaxul leaned forward. Will you carry this message to your leaders? Will humanity consider shouldering this burden? Salvador thought of his father, serving drinks to beings of impossible power, building bridges with nothing but honesty and coffee. He thought of humanity's history always reaching, always adapting, always finding ways to survive in hostile environments. I'm just a mechanic and now a bartender, Salvador said. But I know someone who might listen. A knock came at the door. Salvador hadn't expected another customer, but when he looked, he saw her Irene, the station commander he'd known since his ship repair days. She was sharp, diplomatic, and possessed a reputation for solving impossible problems. Salvador, I got a strange message from your father's legal AI, saying I should come to the bar at sunset. Something about... She stopped, seeing Carthaxul. To her credit, she only paused for 3 seconds. About meeting a very important client. Salvador smiled. His father had planned this perfectly, setting the pieces in motion even in death. Commander Irene, he said, let me pour you a drink. We have a lot to discuss. Carthaxul's laughter shook the foundations of the bar. Humans. Your father was right about your species. You see the impossible and think interesting instead of terrifying. Irene stepped forward, extending her hand toward the Dragon King. Station Commander Irene Vasquez. I handle interspecies relations, and if you're here, I'm guessing we're about to redefine relations on a whole new scale. As Salvador poured drinks for the commander and watched her begin negotiations with a being of cosmic power, he understood his father's final gift. The bar wasn't just an inheritance, it was humanity's embassy to the truly unknown. A place where courage was measured in cups of coffee, and the willingness to say yes when the universe asked for help. Outside, the stars wheeled through their eternal dance. Inside Salvador's sanctuary, 3 beings sat at a bar and began planning how to save 17 worlds. It was, Salvador decided, going to be one hell of a first shift. The end.